My name is Les Chapman, and this is my trip down Sheepfoot Lane.
Les, good afternoon. Absolutely wonderful to meet up with you again, because I've probably only seen you about twice since you finally left Oldham.
Usually at funerals.
Right, you're dead right with that. Yeah. And once when you came back with City.
Yeah.
And was dishing T-shirts out like confetti. And we could hardly raise enough shirts to put the team out. I can remember that one. And they were that ones as well. They kept them, didn't they? And then threw them into crowd after.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite that was an experience and what have you. Right. Chadderton Grammar School.
Yeah.
That's where you went to, and you're a Royton lad, aren't you?
I was born at Boundary Park Hospital, lived in Royton. When I left school, I left Chadderton Grammar School when I was 17 to get a job as a trainee accountant at Middleton Town Hall.
No, that's right. Listen, was Len Carney still at the grammar school when you were there?
Len Carney was the deputy headmaster, yes.
Yeah, he was England Amateur International, wasn't he?
Was he?
Yes, he was.
My endearing memory of Len Carney was at a sports day when a lad called Roy Aziz threw the javelin and it slipped out of his hand and sliced through the top of Len Carney's head. Another inch further down, it would have killed him, but it just glanced the top of his head and landed in another lad's thigh. And the other memory of Len Carney, who was very much a disciplinarian, was we used to come out of assembly in the morning after assembly, and he used to be stood outside the door watching every lad that walked past, and anybody who had hair down to his collar, he would pull out and make them have a haircut.
Yeah. But was he, my memory serves me right, and I didn't go to Chadderton Grammar School. I'm sure, was he a Liverpudlian?
I don't think so. I can't remember his accent. He was a fearsome character, I know that.
I'll check that out tonight with my friends, because it was them that told me, and they were all good footballers, that Carney definitely played as an amateur.
Right. I didn't know that.
Well, there you go. He probably didn't sling it around like, and what have you, but he was. So you left Chadderton Grammar School, went to Middleton Town Hall.
I'd actually played for Huddersfield Town youth team for the season before in the school holidays, because Ian Greaves, who was the reserve team manager at Huddersfield at the time, lived in Shaw. And he used to take me across and play in the Huddersfield Town youth team. So I'd had a taste of what professional football was like. But then the season finished. I got the job at the town hall. So I played actually for the town hall team, and it was a guy at the town hall who knew Gordon Hurst, who was the caretaker manager at Oldham at the time.
Yeah, it would be.
And he spoke to him and said, "We've got a lad here, you should give him a trial." So they phoned me up and asked me if I'd have a month's trial. So I had to go and see the Borough Treasurer, which was a daunting prospect. Nobody went to see the Borough Treasurer. He was like God. And I went in and asked him if I could have a month's trial at Oldham Athletic, and he said, he was great. He said, "Yeah, that's what you want to do, then fine." Unfortunately, after a week of the trial, Jimmy McElroy, who was the manager by then, Jimmy McElroy asked me to sign pro. So I left the town hall fairly early and signed for Oldham Athletic. I was 18 then.
Yeah. Did Middleton Town Hall for that week pay you?
Well, I was on £7.
Leave, was it? Back in the 70s. Unbelievable that, isn't it?
£7 something a week I was on.
Was you?
I can't remember whether they settled me up or they just ceased to pay me anymore.
So you went to Oldham for £2 a week, did you?
I went to Oldham and I was on £18 a week.
Was you?
Bernard Halford gave me my first contract. I was £18 a week, but after about 3 weeks, I was raised to £25 a week.
Was you? And Jimmy McElroy had probably only just arrived, and the influx of players were coming in then, wasn't it?
A lot of Irish players started to arrive. Ronnie Blair, Eric McGee, Michael Nolan, Billy McCauley, Alan Hunter.
Alan, yeah.
Who went on to greater things, of course.
Yes, he did. As Eric McGee, very good friends, Eric McGee and his wife, with Alan Hunter. And Alan Hunter's wife bought one of my books.
Right.
He went down to Ipswich, did that.
She one of the 15 that bought your book, Roy?
350 bought it.
Oh, marvellous seller. Top seller.
Yeah. Notice your name weren't on the list. What you
Well, I didn't know you had one for sale. I should immediately go out and buy one.
No, Susie's got it for you.
Terrific.
She bought it right at the start. And more or less said, oh, I've given my dad you move. She obviously hadn't. She was just classifying.
Oh, she has.
Hey?
She has given it me. She has given it me, but it's in a bag that she gave me with other things in. I haven't looked through it yet. I have got your book, and I certainly will read it today.
Yeah,
I'll start it today, definitely.
Well, it's only 120 pages. Blink and it's gone. But, you're not in it, by the way. So
I'll not bother then.
Anyway, there you go. It's I'm going back to Ian Greaves. You know, he was a show lad.
Yeah, he was.
And worked at the Lilac Mill and was recommended by the personnel officer at the time after the medal competitions, which was played at the end of the season. The younger fans won't know anything about that. All the big mills used to put a football team on the Albion at Shaw behind Cotton Cricket Club. And for about 3 weeks, there was a match on every night to a grand final. And Ian Greaves got his contract at United from there.
Right.
She recommended him, gave him a trial, and off he went. And he really got into the United team because of the crash, didn't he?
Yeah, of course.
He played in that team, didn't he?
Well, it was Ian Greaves, who, as I say, was working with the reserves, and he used to take me over and play with the youth team. And then he eventually got the manager's job at Huddersfield Town, and I was one of his first signings in 1970 from Oldham.
So
and David Shaw came the other way.
Did he?
But Jack Rowley said to Ian, David Shaw did an eye test at the medical when we were doing the swap, and he couldn't see the card, never mind the letters.
No, he couldn't.
And Jack Rowley said, unless Huddersfield Town paid for contacts for him, the deal was off.
Yeah. So you could tell that David had contacts in, couldn't you? But he couldn't stop, could he? He was that quick. He was quick, wasn't he, Les?
Yeah, and him and Jim Fryatt, of course, formed a formidable partnership between them. And David Shaw went on to greater things at West Brom, and then
he came back, you know.
Came back to Oldham, yeah. He came back when I came back.
Yes. Yeah, he was an absolute speed merchant, and you know, some people said he missed a lot, but he was there to miss them, Les. A bit like the old Lister days.
Yeah,
he was there to miss them. He scored about 25 a season and missed 25.
Yeah, he had a pub called the Crown and Cushion in Milne Road, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
For a while,
yeah. Yeah, he did. And, seen him on Facebook somewhere. I think he's still around, is David. Yeah.
I'd love to see some of the old players, and I see John Platt now and again, and as I say, I've seen Ian Wood at the funeral, and that's about it really. I think I've seen Graham Bell. I went to a pub in Royton, might have been last year, because Carl Valentine was over.
Yes, he was.
And we went to see him, and Keith Hicks was there, and Graham Bell, John Platt, one or two others. So that was good to see him again. But
yeah,
I'd like to get in touch with. I mean, I'm not on Facebook or anything like that, but I'd love to get in touch with some of the players from that era.
Now, did we sell you to Huddersfield?
I went for 25 grand and David Shaw, I think, in 1970, and then I came back in 71 and Colin Garwood went the other way.
Oh, it was a swap job with it all the time.
Yeah. Colin Garwood went to Huddersfield, and I came back to Oldham in 75, who were in the second division then. I left when they were in the fourth division. Huddersfield won the second division the first season I was there. Then we had 2 seasons in the top division, which is the Premiership now. And then they dropped down to the third division. And then I did the deal and came back to Oldham, who were actually in the second division.
In that book, if you've just seen it, there's a picture of Greaves and Jimmy Frizzle the day he signed for Oldham Athletic.
Right. From Bournemouth. From Bournemouth, was it? Is it from Bournemouth he was from, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. From
well, he lived with me for about 10 months, Groves, with me and my parents.
Yeah. You actually went into business together, didn't you?
We did. We had a petrol station on Ashton Road, Honeywell service station.
Yeah. Did you have 1 or 2 used cars on it?
Yeah, but they weren't ours. I think we bought 1 car. We used to have a guy called Ernie Connell, and he rented the bit off us. But we went into the car business. We bought 1 car. It was a disaster. The actual garage was a disaster, really, because it was during the petrol war. So every garage virtually were cutting the price of petrol. We used to make about half a penny a gallon profit. And then we had a young lad who worked for us, because it wasn't self-service then. We actually put the petrol in for the customers.
Yeah.
And we had a young lad working for us who robbed us blind. So it was a pretty unsuccessful business. But I got on great with Greaves, who we used to knock about together. As I said, he lived at my house for going on for a year. And when he died, I was actually playing in America.
Yes, you was.
I flew back for the funeral.
Yeah, you did. Ian Wood stayed there, didn't he, in America, and you came back.
I played with Ian Wood at San Jose Earthquakes. We played in the same team.
I had hoped to get Ian on today, because both of you have some tremendous records, and Ian's 500 and odd games for Oldham Athletic will never be surpassed, will it?
No, I wouldn't have thought so, no.
Never.
I think I've got... Not for Oldham, but I think I've got 747 league games now. I think it's something like 15th in the highest in history. So, yeah,
it's absolutely tremendous. Is that you don't get that, and you have another little string to your bow, don't you? You played at the time before you retired. You played on every one of the 92 Football League club rounds, haven't you?
Yeah, I was an honorary member of the 92 club, it was called at the time. Obviously, it didn't last very long, because you got new teams coming into the league, like your Wickhams and people like that, Milton Keynes and all that, MK Dons. And quite a few clubs that aren't in the league anymore. Southport, Barrow, Workington, places like that.
Well, Barrow are now, aren't they?
Yeah, they've come back. Yeah, they've done it this time, yeah.
With an ex-Oldham manager in charge.
Yeah, of course.
Dunny.
Yeah, David
He didn't last very long, David, but nice guy he was.
I've seen him interviewed. He seems a nice guy.
Yes, he is. And, you're not given any time, though, these days, are you?
No.
A manager and what have you, you've gone, before anything else. Can you remember any of you? You played in midfield, didn't you, really, for Oldham? I
started off on the left-hand side. I made my debut at Bristol Rovers. And my first home game was against Doncaster Rovers. And I can remember there was we used to get 9, 10, 11, 12,000 crowd then.
Oh, yeah.
Jim Williams is dead, isn't he?
Yes. Jim passed away.
That's one of my other endearing memories about Oldham, Jim Williams. Some of his quotes in the write-ups for the match days were classic. He was like, we'd miss a chance, and then in the write-up he'd put, and the story of the game after that was like a buzzload of spinsters, miss after miss after miss. Asking Athletic to score goals on Saturday was like asking a cockerel to lay eggs. They just didn't have the equipment.
He was a brilliant writer,
He was brilliant. But yeah, I started at 67, debut at Bristol Rovers. Played with course with Jimmy Frizz, Alan Lawson, Johnny Colloon, Reg Bloor, Ian Towers, David Best, Ian Wood.
I remember Ian Towers signing from Burnley And when I saw him, he was walking past the old mortuary down Sheepfoot Lane, and he had a raincoat on, and his boots were under his arm in a brown paper bag.
Yeah.
And I thought, and I'd watched Burnley a lot, alternate weeks, and I couldn't believe my eyes seeing Ian Towers. Well, I think there was one, when Bates took over, he signed 1 or 2 players straight away, just before Christmas, like Boxing Day. I think Reg Boyd played for us. Come New Year's Day, a new team came out. You know, nobody knew the players was because there'd been no newspapers across Christmas.
Right.
And Ken Bates had virtually signed. I mean, likes of Jimmy Frizzle were there, but there was a lot, Keith Bebbington and people like that had been signed.
Alan Philpott.
Yeah, that was another one. And
Bill Asprey. And of course the Irish contingent.
Yeah, and there was George Tinnell.
Yes.
And we were a good side, weren't we? We went to Mansfield and absolutely slaughtered them when Mansfield were at the top of the league.
Yeah.
Went over there, and I always thought that the catalyst was when Billy Johnston got his leg broke up at Middlesbrough. We was never the same side after that.
Mm.
And when he did come back, one of his legs was an inch shorter. He used to run with a limp.
Yeah.
And
he's always been Bernard Alford's favourite player, hasn't he?
Has he?
Yeah.
Well, he would be. That'd be Bernard on. And he weren't there too long, Bernard, you know, with Ken Bates.
No.
You know, because Bernard signed me up in '63.
Right.
Behind the scenes.
And he gave me my first contract in...
And I'll tell you, and in that, I'm sorry to keep mentioning the book because you haven't read it and you've been given it, but if you look in there, there's a picture of Bernard Halford at 18 years old, 3 minutes after he got the job at Oldham Athletic.
Wow.
And he had her then, Bernard. And, yeah, he did. And he went on to... And within 4 years, he was club secretary, and he was nearly club secretary because the secretary was ill in between. And what a guy Bernard Halford was, and he was always coming back to Oldham.
Yeah.
You know, and what have you.
Yeah, he loved Oldham. He loved his sports. He had other affiliations with other clubs and non-league clubs and rugby, of course. He was big into rugby league. He's done a lot of voluntary and charity work for a lot of people, Bernard.
Yes, he has. He finished up like Val Parnell, the big impresario, didn't he? Yeah. Bringing Bon Jovi and Take That. Some of it were coming to Main Road long before you got the Etihad.
Yeah.
And what have you. And
I can remember playing away from home with Oldham once, and Harry Massey was the chairman.
Yeah.
And we stopped we were coming back from the away game. We stopped at a hotel or a restaurant for a meal, and you were only allowed like a certain amount. Like you couldn't have a starter and a main course and a sweet. It was just like a main course really. But I wanted I'd seen apple crumble and custard, and I wanted that as well. And so I had to give him 10 pence, an old 2 shilling, so I could have a sweet as well as a main course.
Absolutely brilliant, Harry, weren't he? He really was. He actually banned Jim Williams, you know, for criticising Alan Lawson. And Alan Lawson had Jim Williams pinned up at the side of the team
He did
bus.
indeed. I wouldn't like to cross Alan Lawson. He was one of the hardest players ever. And he was nothing. I mean, as a physical specimen, he was very slim. But he was built. He was like, you touched him and it was like iron. He was the Iron Man, wasn't he?
Yes, he was, and Jim got banned for that. And
did he?
Yeah. Oh, he was banned for 4 or 5 days and what have you. And I don't know where I've written about that, but it was unbelievable.
He's lucky to still be. He was lucky to still be alive. Never mind be banned.
But he was banned every other week. There's one famous story about Jim Williams, and was when John Law was chairman, and I was stood in the back, what was now the Boundary Club or whatever we now call it, at the bar, where the press used to gather in them days after a game. And we're still there about 6 o'clock. And suddenly, John Lowe had a chauffeur, and he came out to the boardroom and walked up, past the kitchen and walked up. And Jim said, "Time to go now, Roy." I said, "Why?" He said, "He's going up for green final, and he ain't going to like, Mr. Lowe, what I've got in it this week."
Green final. Wow.
The green final, yeah. And we went up to the Greaves Hotel with Fred Austin and that. And about 20 minutes after we got in, the phone started ringing, and the landlord can say, "No, he's not here. He's definitely not here."
Wow.
Well, those were great days, you know.
How times have changed.
Yes, they have. I mean, you go to the big Premiership clubs now, and I've been down to City, I've been to Newcastle and everything else. And what I have found is that, you know, they put them 3-course meals on the press, Mars bars at half time, you name it, and you can have it. But I'll tell you what you can't have: access to a player.
Yeah.
Without somebody stood at the side of the player. Make no mistake about that. I'm right about it.
Even working for City TV, as I did for 4 years, that ever since Pep came, and I'm not saying anything against Pep, he's obviously a brilliant manager, but ever since Pep came, he's restricted the interaction that City TV can have with the players. And like you say, you know, you just can't. When I first started at City, when I first started doing stuff for City TV, when I was the Kitman, we could, with previous managers, we could interview players, we could have fun with them, we could play games with them, we could interview them anytime. There was no restrictions at all. It's only a more recent thing that interaction has stopped. It's a shame, really, because it only enhances the player's reputation when the fans can see that the normal human beings, you know, they're just like you and I. Obviously, they've got some incredible talent on the football pitch, but human beings are the same, and the fans love to see that interaction with the players, especially because now the global superstars, you know, your David Silvas and your Aguero and Kevin De Bruyne and the rest of them. They just it's a shame, really, that interaction has stopped.
Your association with City, you went there first time as a reserve team coach.
Yeah, I went there in '92 when I finished playing. I left Preston and I went there in '92 as reserve team coach with Peter Reid signed me. Yeah. And then Peter Reid left. Brian Horton came. He left. Then Alan Ball came. I left. And then I went to Huddersfield Town with Brian Horton, actually, and I coached the youth team for about 10 months. And then Joe Royle, who took over at City, took me back to City as kitman. Because Brian Horton had been sacked at Huddersfield and all the staff had been sacked.
As well, seems to be the going thing these days, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, usually the manager brings his staff with him and vice versa. If the manager goes, his staff goes as well. So I was out of a job and Joe got in touch with us and they hadn't had a kitman before. City had never had a kitman before. I think Tony Boot used to do a bit of it, and Ronnie Evans, who was a physio, he used to help with the kit as well. So I think it was him really that kept pestering Joe to get somebody in to do the kit, and he kept mentioning me. So Joe asked me to go and do the kit. So I was.
Well, how long was your kitman at City?
I was kitman for 17 years, 97 till 2014, and then I worked for City TV for 4 years and part-time since then.
You actually managed Preston North End, didn't you?
I did for 2 years. Yeah, I went to Preston I left Stockport, went to Preston in '86, and I was assistant manager and player with John McGrath.
Yeah.
John McGrath then was sacked in '90, and they asked me to take over, and I was there till '92. Actually, Peter Reid, who was manager of City at the time, I was manager of Preston. had a chat with me one day, and he said, look, I know it's a great opportunity for you. He says, but I know what it's like at that level. There's no money, but they expect you to win like the European Cup, and you've got no money to sign players, he says. But obviously it's a good opportunity for you. See how it goes. I'm going to this was in the summer, and he said, I will leave the reserve team manager's job open at City until October. And I was sacked at Preston at the end of September, which coincided with me just moving straight to City. So I wasn't out of work at all, really, only for a week or so, and went straight to City then as reserve team coach. So
when you left school, apart from Middleton Town Hall, 10 months, your whole life has been football.
Football. Ever since I was 18, yeah. Apart from that, well, from 18 I was, yeah. So that's 52, 53 years, 54 years. That's all I've ever known. And that's what I miss now, really. I still miss being a player, although I can't play, obviously, anymore. But I still miss that dressing room environment, because there's nothing like it in the football club. You can be a manager, you can be a coach, you can be a physio, but to actually be in that dressing room as a player and as a kitman, because as a kitman, you were there to do the players a service. You're with them all the time. You're providing a service, not only supplying them with kit, cleaning the boots. I used to look at it as more than just supplying them with kit. Because I'd been a player, I understand the mentality. I used to go on holiday with them sometimes. I'd do errands for them. I'd give them advice. I once dressed up as Santa Claus and drove from Delft, where I live, to Hale Barnes, and I was Father Christmas for Antoine Sibierski's kids.
Was you?
So, it wasn't just supplying them with kit. I've formed great relationships over the years and kept.
Yeah, a lot of football clubs, it's a family atmosphere, isn't it?
Yeah. There's nothing like a dressing room at a football club, and especially if it's a successful football club. But you need that camaraderie and that team spirit to get success.
I mean, I've never been a footballer like that, never good enough. But where I got all my entertainment from was in the press box.
Yeah.
Because I started Radio Latics, and we started it in the press box. Paul Ince, Manchester Evening News, you'll know Ince.
Yeah.
Can't find him at the moment. Somebody told me yesterday that he was in Wales now. And what have you. And
he retired, of course.
Oh, he's been long retired, And Paul Ince started work with Jim Williams and Fred Austin all together in Ashton Reporters' Royton office. You know that?
Wow. That was a long time ago.
They all started work, and Fred Austin went on to be writing for This Is Your Life and owning Oldham Press Agency and what have you. And I got towed around by them, And when they finally put me on commentary with Big Gordon, who was absolutely excellent, I was just a warm-up act and what have you with me, Oldham accent and what have you. I was the fan moaning and groaning at the side of him. And we got quite a big following. But now, and I do every game, if I go to a game and I'm not doing that, I don't enjoy it the same.
Oh.
Are you with me?
Funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's that involvement with a football club. You're not just there as a fan, you're working for them as well as being a fan. It's that total involvement.
It is.
I watch people sometimes at football matches, and I can't. They could be like perfectly normal human beings during the week, and they go to a football match and they go insane. It's that. it's that passion, and that unbelievable passion for that particular football. It's some people. It's the life. Yeah. I meet a lot of City fans and supporters clubs and stuff, and some have been supporting for 40 and 50 years, and they haven't missed a game, and it's staggering to me that commitment and that total dedication to a football team. I love the game, and it's in my blood, and I've been in professional football for 50 odd years, but to that I just can't believe to what extent that some people just have this incredible feeling for the football club. And obviously you have for Oldham Athletic, you know.
Yeah. Well, some people say I need sectioning, really.
Well, probably, yeah. Most football fans do, I would think.
Yeah, they do. You know, 57 years behind the scenes for now, and what have you. But it's been my life and what have you.
And there's been a lot more downs than ups there, hasn't there?
Yeah, I wanted to call that book, you know, Up, Down, Round and Sideways. Stuart Beckett, the exit story. You know Stuart, don't you?
Who?
Stu Beckett, who wrote in Amongst the Chimney Pots, whatever.
Yeah.
I actually put that in the book. It rather upset him, really, but he designed the front cover, did Stuart, for me. And everybody who worked on the book bought a book. They didn't have any, there was no money. And if I did give one away, I put a tenner in. Are you with me?
Yeah. I can't believe I'm not in it, Roy.
Well, there you go.
Oldham Athletic, the week they sold me to Huddersfield.
I read it.
the week they sold me to Huddersfield, they had to sell me that week because they couldn't pay the wages.
No. That's become apparent. And we have a midfield player, Dean Furman, who went on to captain South Africa. And the fans have had a pop at him. And he's back now in England. He's 31. He's still vice captain of South Africa. And he played for Paul Dickoff. And he was up and down, up and down. But the fans, Doncaster came in wanting him for the promotion side. And Doncaster got promotion that season, and we were offering around the bottom. Because every time Dean went away, he went away for 2 matches. It was about 4 because of the continent.
Yeah.
And that he explained that, you know, but the fans don't quite get what damage it did when he went away. But he didn't want to leave. But he had to leave because they had to get his wages off the bill.
Sad, isn't it? It's sad, really, isn't it?
And if you go all the way through, different people I've spoken to, different managers, Ian Dowie, it's always come back to that.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's simple as that. And, you know.
I had to sell Alan Kelly, the goalkeeper, from when I was manager at Preston. I had to sell Alan Kelly to Sheffield United for 100,000 at the time, which was a fortune for Preston at that particular time. Something I didn't want to do, but it was just to keep clubs afloat. That's what they have to do.
What was the fans' reaction when you sold Kelly?
Well, I think that they probably resigned themselves to the fact, although they would be disappointed, they would realise that to keep the club afloat and to keep, you know, going every week, that certain sacrifices had to be made. And Alan Kelly was definitely going to go on to bigger and better things. So it was an opportunity where the club could make some money, keep paying the other players. And I think I think you resign yourself to the fact that this is the way it is now. I mean, at City now, that'll never happen. I mean, the owners are billionaires. They'll, you know, there'll be no cutbacks there or anything like that. But in my early days, and even my early days at City, there weren't a lot of money flying about, and we still had to be very economical and even on the kit side, you know.
You had Bernard Halford, and he raised a lot of money for City, didn't he?
Yeah, he did a lot of charitable stuff. He got lottery ticket things going, and the 100 Club, and a lot of different things. And Bernard could have told some phenomenal stories.
Oh yeah, but I've heard many
times he's been at Oldham and City. He has seen some adventures.
Yeah, well, he was a big friend of Gordon, but he was a friend of mine. I knew him long before Gordon arrived at Oldham, you know.
Yeah.
And he raised a lot of money at Oldham to keep the club going. And it was in his blood because Oldham was skint, so he had to, you know, went to a bigger club who might have been skint, but not skint like Oldham were.
Yeah. I think it must have been a great relief to Bernard when the people from Abu Dhabi actually took over at City, because all the penny pinching and the scrimping and saving and charity work and lottery stuff and everything like that, it could really go out the window. It wasn't a necessity anymore. So it must have been a big relief for Bernard not having to come up with ideas that would actually raise money for the club.
Mm. Well, it comes back to Alan Hardy and Gordon Lawton, that whilst they were running, Alan Hardy was there in 81, Gordon arrived in 86. He was brought in to run the pools at the time, and he came from Leigh Rugby Club, although he'd been at Rochdale in the past and other rugby league clubs as well as football clubs. And Gordon was selling and Alan, let's put Alan in it, 9,000 £1 tickets per week.
Wow.
£9,000 a week. Now, I know there was commission to the sellers, but they're bringing a lot of money into Oldham Athletic.
Yeah.
You know.
Vital money.
Very strong commercial department, and you need one at this level, and you need a website that will drive the club on, because there's no Oldham Chronicle anymore.
No.
You know, and you've got to be driving it all the time through the modern medium and what have you. Anyway,
How are they doing during this pandemic business? What's the latest news coming out of Oldham Athletic about?
Well, it's me at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon at the moment, to be honest with you.
And that's it, is it?
Yeah, well, there's little bits leaking in, and they're popping stuff on the website when they can. We have young Matthew there, a student, because everybody's been furloughed, players as well.
I suppose every club is in the same boat, aren't they, really?
Yes, they are. Rochdale got rid of everybody.
Yeah.
And but I think they kept their website on in the early days. How it's running now, I don't know. They were running competitions and what have you. It's just the way of the world, I think.
That's why the job at a lower level, with all due respect to Oldham and your Prestons at that particular time, it's such a difficult job for a manager, because the fans still have those same expectations about wanting promotions and success. And if you haven't got the funds, you have to be have an incredibly good scouting network, which most clubs don't have because of the financial aspect as well. Or be very, very lucky, because you can't afford to sign the players that you want to. You're relying on free transfers and non-league players sometimes. It's a very, very, it's a job. I found it as a job of incredible extremes. You win a game, it's the best job in the world. You lose a game, it's the worst job in the world.
It is.
And when you haven't got those finances to go out and get 1% of the players that you really want, it's very, very frustrating.
Yeah. When was it? I don't know who he was manager of at the time. It might have been Preston. Simon Grayson.
Yeah.
Good manager, Simon.
Yeah.
And I've come across him and talked to him and everything else. And he was coming out of the boardroom. Everybody else had gone. And he said, you're still here? He said, nice to see you again. I said, don't speak to me, you. You spoil my Saturday nights that many bloody times. You know? And he just burst out laughing, because you're one of the guys that you could say it to. Are you with me?
Yeah.
You know,
you see, you've got that mad passion. You're insane. You've got a mad passion, haven't you, about the football?
Yeah. I come home, sometimes.
Were you a hooligan? Were you a Chadderton Road End hooligan?
No. My first season ticket was at centre stand.
Was what?
Was in the main stand.
All right.
Yeah. 4 rows behind the director's box. That's where I sat for years and years.
I was a Chadderton Road Ender.
Well, I went on tour. I stood behind the Rochdale Road End when Bobby Johnston made his debut with 17,500 in the ground.
Yeah.
And what have you. And I was always at Oldham, as I was at I went to all the old home games.
Yeah.
And when Oldham weren't playing at home, I went to Burnley with my dad.
Right.
To watch First Division football.
Yeah.
What have you.
They had a team then, Burnley, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I skipped night school in Manchester to go and watch them beat City 2-1 when they won the league championship. And I must have stood in the Platt Road end that night. My feet didn't touch floor. I'd be only 18. My feet didn't touch floor all the game. Wow. Shut the gates. I think there was 70,000 there that night.
I've got a question for you now, Roy.
Right.
From past teams and the most current teams, who's been? Give me your two most favourite players.
Bobby Johnson.
Right.
Had to be Bobby Johnson, really.
Well, give me a few more than that, because it's such an age span from like the 60s.
Oh yeah.
To now. Give me your top 5 players.
Oh dear.
Who would be class players now?
And ask me to start thinking.
Yeah.
There's been a lot. I mean, I've talked to people recently. I've said Tommy Bryceland.
Yeah.
And Tommy Bryceland came from Norwich. Yeah. He was another John Sheridan, played on one leg. What a player. We always had a midfield player. John Sheridan.
Graham Bell.
Yeah, Graham Bell. He had an iron deficiency, and I remember somebody said to me, he lives in Icron, apparently. So they tell me, and somebody says they need to get him to suck a red hot poker to get some iron into him. But he did have an iron deficiency, didn't he?
Yeah, he was only a young lad, but he had amazing engines. What about Alan Groves? Does Alan Groves feature in it?
Yes, he does. And I knew Grovesy well, and I always used to see him come into the dressing room and see you and Grovesy together. And
Keith Devington was a player as well.
Yes, he was. Oh, Ken Bates brought some players in,
Yeah. Alan Hunter. Alan Hunter.
Alan Hunter, yes, they did. All them Irish lads used to babysit for me.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, they did. And the thing is, if I couldn't get them, because they were at Torquay, the girlfriends used to come to our house and stay there till they got back, and stupid old clock from Torquay, cobble roads, because there were no motorways, was there?
No.
And they used to, and they didn't stay overnight.
No.
They'd stay overnight travelling down, but not, everything was there and back in a day.
What about the more recent? Obviously the Premier League success with Joe Royle and that. There were some phenomenal players in that team.
Yes, there was.
Probably through the years, they would compare favourably with any team Oldham's had, wouldn't they?
Yes, they would. I went to Liverpool the very first game we played, and I didn't go with the press. My wife went with me, and we went for a meal, went on one of club coaches, just for one game at Anfield. And I remember Graham Sharp leaping up and we lost 2-1. We went into the lead 1-0, Richard Jobson scored. And he flicked this into the top corner, and Grobbelaar caught it. And it weren't a looping header. It was a corner coming in, and he flicked it, going like a bullet, and he caught it. And at the time, they were calling Grobbelaar a clown. And I said to Joe the day after, I went down to the ground, and I said, God, he said, I wish he'd come and clown around here, or, some goalkeeper. I've always said Graham Sharp as a centre forward, because if we hadn't to sign Graham Sharp that first season, we'd have got relegated.
Yeah.
Because he played up front on his own.
What year did Oldham play Forest in the cup final? What year was it Oldham played Notts Forest? Oh,
you're going to get me in trouble now, because the fans... It was 30 years ago, I'll give you that one.
40 years, because I went to that.
Okay.
I went to that with my family, with 2 girls and my mother. And for some reason, I was sat in the Notts Forest end with the Notts Forest fans. I can't remember now who got me the ticket.
You would be because Oldham sold the full allocation of 32,000 and Forest sent 2,000 back.
Right. That's probably what. There was no trouble. There was no trouble or anything like that. But
no, it was one heck of a game.
That was a good team. That was a good team Oldham had then.
Oh, yes, it was. They were one heck of a side. You know, they scored a bit like league goals in, but they scored a lot of goals.
What about more recently then? The more recent teams. What players would you say were outstanding more recently?
Well, we've had our moments. I mean, people keep saying, oh, they've had no success, but we've had a few cup runs. We've been to playoffs and what have you. John Sheridan, obviously, he's one of the best players that's played at Oldham. He got miffed when I had to pick a team once, and I had Bobby Johnston in midfield and not him. I got a programme stuck under my nose about that.
Oh, before his time, you see, he wouldn't know who Bobby Johnson was.
No, well, he was something else, Bobby Johnston, but he wouldn't have never have come to Oldham if he hadn't been thrown out of Ibs and what have you. After he'd left City, he went up to Hibernian. He would never, ever play for Oldham Athletic.
No.
And what have you. You know, some players play on the edge, don't they? Said Paul Gascoigne and George Best.
Georgie Best.
Yeah. But I mean, without that sort of edge that they had, he wouldn't have been half the player.
No. Georgie Best is the best player I've ever played against, I think.
You played against him, did you?
Yeah. I played for Huddersfield against Manchester United, and it was the last game that they beat us 3-0, and George Best, Dennis Law, and Bobby Charlton scored a goal each. It was the last game in which those 3 scored a goal together. They beat us 3-0 at Huddersfield. But Georgie Best was... I can always remember going watching him at Old Trafford as well. And every time he was in possession, the atmosphere in the stadium changed.
Yeah.
There was that incredible expectancy as soon as he was in possession. He had phenomenal ability. And I always think back now, what a great shame.
Yeah.
What a great shame, because we used to get the highlights of about 3 or 4 matches on television on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
Now every game in every division is televised. You can watch any game, any goal scored throughout all the divisions. You can see there's so much footage of George Best that's never been seen, which is a great shame, because he was just a most phenomenal player.
Yes, he was. I once saw George Best. I went down. I was never a United fan.
No.
And I went down to. I watch them now. You know, I watch the Premiership on a Sunday because I'm always at lower divisions on a Saturday and what have you. And I remember going down. They played Sunderland in the FA Cup. Johnny Crossan was a midfield player for Sunderland. And he chipped Alex Stepney for 3-0. And they were winning 3-0. The game finished up 3 apiece. And I think George Best scored the equaliser in his stocking feet with boots in his hands. Boots came off.
Wow.
And he's sailing through them and he scored. And now we're with a lot of anti-United fans. And I actually didn't dare tell my mother and my dad, because I paid £1 for a 4-shilling ticket in the paddock.
Ridiculous.
That was a lot of money
Ridiculous.
then. Absolutely a lot of money.
Ticket counts.
I finished up singing with these lads that I was with, singing the Blade and Races when it was 3-0. And the best game spoiled the day. They had about 3 replays on that game, you know. And funny enough, Huddersfield comes in. They played one of them at Huddersfield. They went up to Royton, came back to Huddersfield. Unbelievable thing it was. But you know, I know there's not many some of my memories of Oldham Athletic. Can you remember the best game you played in at Oldham?
It's nearly 50 years ago, right?
It is, isn't it?
I can remember my debut at Bristol Rovers because we lost 2-1, but I crossed the ball for Ian Towers to score our goal.
Yeah.
And I can remember my first home game because there was a lad called Tony Coleman playing for Doncaster, and he went on to play for City. He was a good player. And we beat them 1-0. And I can remember my first goal. Jimmy Frizzell was taking a free kick about 15 yards outside the penalty box. I can't remember who we were playing against. And I moved from the edge of the penalty box towards him when he was taking the kick. And then I turned and checked and ran back towards the penalty box. Mm. And as I turned and ran back to the penalty box, Jim took the free kick and it landed on top of my head and bounced over the goalkeeper.
Did it?
And that was my first goal. I had no idea what had happened. The crowd didn't cheer, they laughed.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
But other games, I remember my last game because we battered somebody, and me and Greaves had teamed up together really well that particular day. But there's not a lot of individual games that I remember. I can remember scoring a hat-trick against Liverpool in the Lancashire Senior Cup, I think. And I can remember playing at Workington and getting kicked off the park because they had a fullback who was like a complete beast.
Played in clogs, did he?
Oh, animal. But like...
Was you there at Charlton when Greaves, Alan Greaves, he declared himself fit and then he was injured, wasn't he? He was already injured, said he was playing, he was fit.
I think I'd gone to Huddersfield then. You'd
gone to Huddersfield. And I know Frizzy suspended him for that, I think. He got in a bit of trouble for that, did Greaves?
He got in a bit of trouble for a lot of things.
Yeah, he did. But I'll tell you what a character.
Oh, great character. Never drank, never touched a drop. Used to smoke like a trooper, but never touched a drop.
Well, I was telling somebody about that the other day. I said, you used to see him before a match, anytime, walking about with a cup of tea.
Yeah.
In them days.
Loved his tea.
Yes, he did. And, I remember him ringing me up and from the Chronicle when he died and saying, was he in trouble for this and for that? I said, you must be joking. To start off, he doesn't drink. I said, anyway, and there were only me around. Jimmy Frizzell going on a plane on his holidays. It was close season, wasn't it? Right at the end of the season. And he were going away and the Cron rang in the morning and asking me all sorts of questions. I said, wait a minute. We need to get hold of somebody a bit higher than me. Saturday afternoons, I can say what I want. Not on something like this. And but he was a Blackpool player then, wasn't he, Greaves?
Yeah. I saw Harry Redknapp last year at a City game in one of the press boxes, and I was talking to him, and he said, because he played with him at Bournemouth, and Harry said he's one of the best players he'd ever played with. He'd be right up there. He said even today he'd be outstanding in the Premier League.
Yeah, down the town level in them days, it was like our Georgie Best, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was.
People will laugh. What a heck of a player he was Greaves.
Yeah, great skill. And like you say, a real character.
Yeah, so just to wind up, how many clubs have you had?
Oldham, Huddersfield, back to Oldham, San Jose Earthquakes, Stockport County, Bradford City, Rochdale, back to Stockport, Preston North End, Manchester City.
10. What's that?
All in the northwest.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, you nipped over.
Apart from San Jose Earthquakes, of course, in California. But...
I'll forgive you for nipping over into Yorkshire once.
Yeah. Huddersfield and Bradford.
Yeah, well, I just twice. Well, I'm a bit like that now. But yeah,
I still lived over here.
Yeah. Well, you would do, wouldn't you? It's quite close and what have you. So you don't have a fleet of houses like a lot of other players.
Unfortunately, played in the wrong era. I think the most I ever earned as a player was £250 a week.
Was it?
That was in 1989. So, as I said, my first wage was £18 a week.
Yeah.
Now there's like academy players, well, certainly at City, who'll finish the contract. They'll never ever have to work again, and they'll have never played in the first team.
No. It's frightening, really, isn't it? There needs to be they'll have to bring a wage cap in, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense that a 17 or 18-year-old can be on 20 grand a week, which is infinitely more than the Prime Minister on is, or the top surgeons, or I mean, it's crazy, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, you can't blame the players. I mean, it's what they're given, and if they don't give it, somebody else will give it to them. So, but I unfortunately played in the wrong era financially. Yeah.
If we didn't do it in this country, the Spanish would do it with Real Madrid and Barcelona, wouldn't they?
Mm.
You know, it's as simple as that. Les, it's been absolutely wonderful to speak to you.